Hi, this is Stu Brody, and I originated the series Integrity Stu in order to explore some of the questions that I've been talking to you about in blogs and in my book, The Law of Small Things. And it's essentially what constitutes integrity in our culture. And what it is or is not integrity is not always so easy to see. And in this series, we're going to explore that. Now, some of these views are going to be very controversial, and they don't necessarily represent my opinion, but I think they're provocative and they deserve your attention, and that's why I'm making these videos. Good afternoon. This is Integrity Stu, a periodic inquiry into the breakdown of trust in our culture. And today we're fortunate enough to have John Davis, a naturalist, conservationist, author, and the executive director of the Rewilding Institute. Now, John, we were talking a few days ago about All Things Considered, the famous NPR program, and you took issue with the naming of that program in such a manner. Could you tell us why?
Yeah, and why I raised that subject a week or so ago, Stu, is I really like these questions you've asked in your book and in your blog about sort of ways of gauging people's integrity on small things, your law of small things. So if we listen to National Public Radio, do we contribute to public radio? And I admitted to you I don't. And I gave you my rationale, which is perhaps weak, but at least I think raises an important point. The name of their flagship show, All Things Considered, to my mind, is disingenuous or misleading anyway. They don't consider all things. National Public Radio does a good job of considering many human issues. They do a good job of representing underrepresented people in terms of news coverage. They, especially these days, are giving a lot of attention to people who are of other sexes or other genders or mixed, or they're giving a lot of attention to that, and that's good. They deserve credit for drawing attention to race and ethnicity and sexuality issues, but they give very little attention to the natural world. And when they do, it's usually couched in human terms. So if there's a story about climate chaos, which is a better term for it than climate change, it's usually about the effects on the human world of climate change. Once in a while they'll give a story on wildlife, but very rarely. So my point is, the name of their show is All Things Considered. Well, there are probably at least 10 million, maybe 100 million species of wildlife on Earth. There's one species of human, and All Things Considered devotes 99% of its time, at least, to that one species. Why don't they give equal attention? No, of course not equal, but why don't they give at least some attention to those tens of millions of other species? So what I'm thinking of doing with your encouragement, actually, is next year giving to public radio, as I should, because I listen to it, is the best source of news out there, but calling them and explaining, I'm giving you $10, and that's what I'm going to keep doing until you actually start covering the wider natural world, until you start giving attention to those other millions of species on All Things Considered. I'm going to tell you, you're not considering all things, and so I'm going to give you a small pledge each year, because I do listen to your show, but until you start giving attention to the other species, at least a little bit more than you do now, I'm not going to give you an appreciable donation.